Welcome to March Communications and Title Boxing Club. Thank you for joining us at the March Innovators Collective. This is a series of events that we have launched so that we can live out the credo of March Communications, which is essentially innovation inside out. So we are committed to being innovative in the work we do every day and sharing innovation with our colleagues and clients and people in our network. So this is an opportunity for us to do that with you today. So let's go to talk a little bit about what we're going to do today. The man on my left, Dave Gerhardt.
Big fan. That's my cousin.
Dave Gerhardt of Drift is here on the mic. So Dave literally just walked in and said, we're going to change this up. So I'm just along for the ride for the most part. I'm going to ask Dave a few questions. We're going to talk about marketing, the speed of change, how to build a brand, what it means to build a brand, how do you build a brand which people can get behind and ride with. It's going to be a long conversation. But scintillating. Okay, so we're going to do that, and then we have Jeanne Hopkins from Lola is going to come up, and Jess Meher from Notarize is going to come up. We're going to have a panel discussion where we chat about those things as well. Things for Jess, I'm going to preview Jess and Jeanne. I'm going to ask them about perseverance and how to do that in a startup environment. Did I not tell you that? No. Okay. Stick with it. Okay, ready? And then we're going to let you guys ask some questions and all those other great things. So here we go. Welcome.
Hi.
Hi. Nice to have you.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you for coming.
Sorry for switching it up. I just didn't want to be up here by myself. So
I don't blame you. I hope I'm good enough company for you.
You'll be fine.
So tell me, we were just talking about the rocket success of your recent book and why you think it was so successful. So let's start there.
Oh, man. Okay, so we wrote a book. We recently did a book. And the interesting part about doing the book was I never marketed a book in my life. Anybody marketed a book before? I know Jeanne's done a book, wildly successful. You did a book back there. And what's funny is you go talk to anybody who's done a book before and they're like, don't do a book. And then I have this boss, the CEO of Drift, he's like, this book better be a bestseller. So
no pressure.
No pressure. No. So you have those two kind of like opposing forces. And so it started like I just did a bunch of calls with people who have done books before, just wanted to learn kind of what the playbook was. We had almost had this idea a year earlier, and Jeanne actually helped me get going with sending me a bunch of different ways that she had marketed a book. And we're lucky to have this, like, I think a lot of it is timing, which is like we're lucky to ride this wave of what's happening in the market. And so we really wanted to publish this book now. I talked to this one guy about marketing the book, and he said, here's your strategy for marketing the book. Your number one job is social proof, which is social proof to make people think that the book is a wild success, because if they think that, then they will go to the bookstore and buy it. So it's really a chicken and the egg problem, which is actually one of my favorite quotes about marketing is from P.T. Barnum. I don't know him personally, but there's a copywriting book that I read, and there's a quote in there from P.T. Barnum, and he said, "Nothing builds a crowd like a crowd." And so that is something that like I've taken to everything that we've done in marketing, which is like, you ever go to a bar in Boston and there's nobody inside but there's a line out the door? You're like, that place must be amazing, right? And then you go inside and you're like, what the hell? So you have to deliver on it, but everything that we did for the launch was all about getting the book in the hands of influencers. And I think the biggest thing that's changed, if we're talking to a lot of PR people, is I think influence has changed. It's not so much press. We sent handwritten notes from David, our CEO, to 150 people in the marketing world, right? And said, this book isn't even out yet. I want to make sure you get a copy. It'll be in the store in 3 weeks. And then what happened was before the launch, everybody started taking pictures and tweeting it and say, oh my God, I got to copy this book early.
It's like the Where's Waldo of books.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. I didn't want to make it hard to find, though, the Where's Waldo piece of it, but...
Genius marketer.
So and then the other, so we did that, and then we really tried to stack the deck with a lot of stuff. So when the book was actually hit the stores, by the time the book was out, which was January 30th, we had already done, I think, 75 podcast interviews. I was so sick of talking about the book.
All right, then let's move on.
No. I love talking about the marketing of the book. So we did like 75 podcast interviews before the book. We sent it out to VIPs and customers and influencers, and that was all like hand to hand, right? There's no magic list that we used. It was literally all one by one, and those things all led to each other. And I think out of 150 books we sent out, we got 30 people to promote it, and those 30 people, shared it with other people. And then we did, so the crazy idea that we had for the book was, okay, this is like the social proof thing. We started thinking like, what is like a big moment, like what is a big wow social proof type of thing? And so we said, where's a big place everybody goes? Times Square. Okay, Times Square in New York. And then we started to look at billboards in Times Square in New York. And then we found there's a NASDAQ billboard in Times Square, which you can buy and rent. I had only thought that you get on that billboard if your company went public. And so I had never thought of actually using that. And so we called up NASDAQ and we got it. We got it for like an hour. We documented the whole thing, and then that was an amazing moment because it got the company super excited. And so there's 300 people at Drift, and I really think that one of our secret like superpowers in marketing at Drift is that everybody on the team is in marketing. And the reason is because everybody today has everybody's on Twitter, everybody's on LinkedIn, everybody's on Instagram, or you're on one of those channels, and everybody has the power to publish something today. And so we wanted to get our company excited. And so when the whole company sees that we are down in Times Square at NASDAQ for the book launch, it's just hit a whole new level. And I remember texting with Lacey, hi Lacey, who does PR at Drift, and she was like, the buzz in the office is amazing, and that just led one thing to another, because then everybody at the company is like, my company wrote a book, it's out today, and then it was really all about that kind of snowball effect of social proof.
Well, we were talking about, I had a theory over there. Whenever I'm on LinkedIn and I see the book and I see people talking about the book, it has such an energy you can feel behind it. Whatever it is that drove that energy, you certainly have the recipe more than I do, but there was so much energy behind it. And part of me thinks that because marketing is moving so fast and it's difficult to pin down, everybody's looking for the playbook, if you will. On the one hand, they're hoping that conversational marketing is the playbook. On the other hand, you'd be the first person that says, throw out the playbook. So it's sort of a false promise or a false hope that you're going to read a book and it's going to give you all the answers.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, the other part is that we also got super lucky because the honest answer is I wrote a 12-page book proposal a year and a half ago that got rejected. And so I came back again in December 2017. I said, I'm going to try again. I wrote it again and just made up a bunch of stuff. Because all the publisher wants to know is like, Jeanne's laughing. My guess is because all the publisher wants to know is, are you going to sell books?
And how many? By when?
And so I'm like, okay, how many are you going to pre-buy? Okay, so I got to be like, I don't know where we're speaking yet this year. I don't know what we're doing. So luckily though, when we initially wrote the book proposal, this is a good marketing lesson, which is we wrote the first proposal I wrote was we hadn't yet called it conversational marketing. And so like this is such a good marketing lesson. I have to keep relearning the power of naming something. Like even you guys naming this event is great because if you don't name it, people don't remember it. And so I'm trying to pitch this publisher on why we should write the book. And I'm like, it's a book about like business, communication and messaging, and
sounds fantastic.
Messaging is eating the world, right? And so it wasn't until we actually named it, and then the power of naming it was then all of our customers and people in the community and fans, and they got to say, yeah, I'm doing conversational marketing. So then it just takes off, right? And then we get, Gartner adds conversational marketing as a category to their research, and all this other stuff happens. And so then we go back to the publisher and we're like, look at everything that's happened in the market. All these people are talking about conversational marketing. Here's why the time is now. So part of it was like, I want to take credit for the marketing of the book for sure, but also we got to ride the wave. Like, we didn't write a book about how to wear black pants, and like everybody was like, woo, right? It's like perfect timing in the market. So it's a combination of like the marketing activities we did, but then it really speaks to the bigger, this is a real thing. This is a category. There's hundreds of thousands of businesses using Drift and conversational marketing now. And I think this gave them that moment. Also something we talk about, it's not about us, it's about them. Mm-hmm. It's about the marketers, it's about the people using Drift. It's about people that want to change how they do marketing and do conversational marketing. So this book was for them like, yes, this is my playbook. I can show this to my boss and say, this is what we need to do.
Right. You were talking about the billboard in Times Square and how Times Square, and that was architecting a moment. In PR, a few PR folks out there recognize this too. We get a lot of clients who will say, I want to architect a moment. If we can just make that moment, we're going to rule the world. It's going to go like wildfire and everybody's going to... First of all, you were saying that's true, sort of my credibility just went down the tank, just tanked, seriously. But is architecting a moment something you need to do every day in your marketing?
Not every day, because the challenge is, like, if we did that every day, then eventually it just becomes like the boy who cried wolf, and people don't care. And
That
so,
back it up thing.
so like, I had a conversation with somebody at work today, and they're like, "Hey, can you make a video on LinkedIn and promote this thing?" And I was like, "I can't. I already did 2 this week." And the reason why it works is because I don't do it every day, and when you do it, it works. And so we can't. The other thing about architecting a moment is you have to have a lot of at-bats, right? If you come to the table and you're gonna do like, all we're gonna do for the book is this billboard, you're gonna fail.
Right.
You might get lucky and hit on the right thing, but talk to anybody, read any creative advertising book of all time, and you hear about like how, David Ogilvy had to sit around and come up with 500 ideas, and it's the one good one that, the client sees. I think the same is true with the book, which is like, I could share the deck with you. I have 60 slides of all the things that we did for the book, but there's really only 1 or 2 that are gonna work and people are gonna remember. Right. And so I think it's like my job in marketing to stack the deck and be creative and have, okay, that failed. Instead of being like, oh shit, what do we do now? Mm-hmm. Okay, on to play number 2, on to play number 3, on to play number 4, on to play number 5. You have to be able to do that, especially today. Mm-hmm. Like this one slide that I use in a lot of presentations that I give is, it shows the marketing channels over time. And today there's literally hundreds of marketing channels. Like on my phone, in the last 2 hours, I've been on Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, WhatsApp, Slack, email. Like, it's insane. But if you go back to, and if you look at this slide, in 1999, there was like 2 marketing channels, word of mouth and email. And the first person to do email marketing probably got 90% open rates and 80% click rates, right? Now today at Drift, if we get an 18% open rate, the team is like, we're taking the rest of the day off. And so that to me speaks to like, there isn't one silver bullet. You have to be able to do 20 different things and increase the chances that one of them is going to be successful. And then you get lucky like we did, and one of them is wildly successful, then ideas 2, 3, 4, 5 just even add more to that, and it becomes a snowball effect.
That reminds me, I was looking through some of the podcasts, and you're talking about if this doesn't work and try this, and it's the mix of things that matters. And one of your podcasts was about perfection, and it was essentially, there's really no such thing as perfection, and you're wasting your time, and that is actually the problem, is your quest for perfection. Can you talk to us a little bit about, because we work with a lot of engineering technology, and a lot of times those clients will say, it's got to be perfect before you get out there. So talk to us a little bit about the quest for perfection and how that gets in the way.
I hate the topic of perfection because it's never going something's never going to be perfect. And this earlier this week, I did a talk at Harvard Business School in front of 50 business school students, and the point of me giving them the talk was to convince them to do marketing before their product even existed, and that freaked them out. They don't like that. They don't like that. I'm in stealth mode. We can't talk about this until it's perfect. And the point is, it's never going to be perfect. Or what if the day that you decide, what if you go to bed tonight and you're like, it's perfect. Tomorrow we're going to launch it.
Devastating.
And all of a sudden something crazy happens in the world. It doesn't matter. And so I think perfect is a great thing to strive for, but to me it's just like all about getting as many at-bats as possible. But I think even more powerful than perfection is something that David pushes me really hard on, and the whole team at Drift is like to set big-ass goals. Because if he said to me, hey, we're going to do a book, I want you to sell 1,000 copies. Then how hard am I going to work, right?
Right.
How hard am I going to do? But if he said, I want to be a New York Times bestseller, and I say to him, that means that's 15,000 books in the first week. Like, that's never going to happen. He's like, I don't care. Do it. Okay, well, we miss on 15,000, but you land in the 8,000 books range. You're like, holy cow, that was incredible. And so I think it's the balance of like, you got to set big goals, but you can't be perfect.
Which leads you to the next point in the sort of removing perfection out of the equation. The other half of that, perseverance. So this idea that you have to get up every day and you work hard. And I think it was the quote in the podcast was, it's not every other day, it's not every third day. Every single day you get up and get another at-bat or another idea or another failure.
Which is exhausting, by the way.
And now you're adding
It makes her a great podcast.
I said to Dave, do you work from home? He's like, no. And then he's adding a second baby to the mix.
Yeah, adding, just putting it, here you go.
So I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about brand. So Dave and I had the opportunity to work together, and one of the things, aside from writing quote after quote, my favorites from Dave, I write them on my whiteboard, are, we're not writing for the Queen. Thank you very much for that.
Did I say that? No.
Did.
The Queen?
Yes.
Oh, I heard she's on Instagram now, by the way.
It's very popular.
Yeah.
Bias toward action is another favorite. But one of the things, aside from those quotable moments, that I really picked up from you is the way you are able to move quickly, the means that you are able to have such a sense of urgency and keep moving faster is you have such a pervasive sense of brand, a very, very clear and compelling understanding of who Drift is, what it's about, what it offers, what it does. Do you think that's been part of the fuel and the success, is really that commitment?
Yes, I think one of the most underrated ingredients in marketing is momentum. And like I know Jess and Jeanne will both talk about this, but like the power of, like I mentioned earlier, internal marketing. Like to me, marketing is also just a momentum game, especially today. Raise your hand if you're in the field of marketing or PR in this room. Okay, we are all in that world. None of us want to be marketed to though, right? Yeah. Especially not me. I'm in marketing. You don't market to me, right? None of us want to be marketed to. None of us want to be sold to. Well, then what the hell are we supposed to do all day, right? So like there's something broken there. And so I think what you have to be able to do is, in a world where nobody wants to be marketed to, you have to always find ways to create momentum every single day. And that could be, something you post on LinkedIn, a picture, right? It's why, like, if you follow me on LinkedIn right now, every single person that sends me a picture from a book at an airport, I'm posting it. Because what that leads to is more people sending me books from airports. My sister, Baltimore, friend, Seattle, somebody I don't know, San Diego, another person, LAX. I have like a map now. It's amazing. But that is just because momentum. Like we tricked momentum into that by saying, like, by making it feel bigger, and then all these people are now sending us those things. So I think you have to be thinking about, like, what are the small things you can do every single day? And I think so many companies today get caught up in, like, our product launch is in 6 weeks. Mm-hmm. Like, okay, well, what are we doing today? And why can't you share publicly today? And why can't you do a teaser about it today? Why can't you make a video about it today that you can show to the world? Like, especially today where the best companies, the best brands are real and authentic and human and transparent. Like, you don't need to hide anything anymore. People just want to know, hey, it's me, Jodi. We're like, what you guys did with the teaser video for this event was awesome. Because that let people know, wait a second, this is a PR agency is doing an event in a boxing gym? What? And you had a little B-roll, like, that's amazing. So I think we try to document everything and find ways to just show people what's happening, because that's an easy way to, like, do marketing without always being like, tomorrow, 2 p.m., webinar, right? We're just show us, like, and whatever. There's people that don't like me for that or us. Like, there's people that like, this guy, look at this moron who thinks he's important walking down the street with his phone. Totally fine if people think that, but like, I would say for 90% of the audience, it's the right people, and it's just showing. The only goal of that is to show you who we really are. Right. And I want to be the same person, like, that I am talking to you on stage, as I am on a weekend with my family, as I am tonight walking home. Like, if you catch me at any of those times, it should all be the same. And I think we try to have that ingredient across all of our marketing.
Well, tell us a little bit then, authenticity in marketing, humanity in marketing, customer-centric in marketing. How important is that? Tell us all of that world.
It's so important because of what we just talked about, right? Nobody wants to be marketed to. So one of the best emails that we've ever sent at Drift is an automated email that goes out when you subscribe to our blog. And the email says, hey, I just want to get this out of the way. Even though this is an automated email, I'm a real person. My name is Dave. I do marketing at Drift. And I'm going to be sending you emails every now and then. I promise to be respectful of your inbox. And by the way, while you're here, just reply to this email and let me know why you subscribed. Everybody knows that's an automated email. But the difference is I acknowledge that it's an automated email. And I said, hey, it's me. And I get like 50 responses to that email every single day now. And people are like, hey, automated Dave. But it's that little, like, we have 5 minutes. It's that little thing about addressing flaws up front, right, that make you more real. Because today, like, every salesperson, every marketer in the world is going to tell you that, like, you all are the best PR agency in the world, right? This sales guy, his thing is faster, better, easier to use than everybody else. Drift is the best company in the world, right? Everybody is saying that, and so even if it's true, even if this is the best bottle of water you've ever had in your life, no one's going to believe it because we're all more skeptical than ever. And so the secret sauce to competing is to being transparent and being real and being authentic. And so I might make a typo in an email, but when you call me out on it, I'm going to respond and be like, dang it, you know what? I rushed in sending that out. I had to go to a meeting after this. Sorry, thanks for the heads up. Yeah. Like, I think, but most marketers are afraid to show any flaws. The analogy that I use a lot is like, when you go to a restaurant and you ask the waiter, you're like, what's good here? And they're like, everything. And you're like, BS, right? Right. But like, I remember specifically one restaurant my wife and I were at on a Saturday night, and we ordered a bunch of like tapas, and he was like, don't get that one, it's not very good, right? And that moment was like,
Him for it.
that place, like, this guy's in the kitchen, he knows that the chef picks his nose before he makes this, right? And so he's telling me what to get. Instantly more credible than the person who's like, everything is good here. And I think marketers have just historically been afraid to do some of that, where I think that that's the best way you can do marketing today to really like, to get ahead of what people are going to say about you.
So how do you create a culture around that? How do you create a culture when you're bringing, so you're high growth mode, right? Hypergrowth. You're going from 300 people to 3,000 people as quickly as you can. How do you create a culture of authenticity, so of believability, of credibility, so that lifts the entire company?
Well, number one is like, it's almost a chicken and the egg thing where like, because we do that, we have all these examples that I can then go show to the team, be like, see what happens when we're real? People feel like they know you, they know us. And so we have that to show them, like number one is the social proof of that. The other thing is just like, I care so much about internal marketing and explaining why we do what we do. Like I remember early days of Drift, like we had something called, we still do it, it was just different. It's called Show and Tell, radical name, I know. Every Friday at 4 o'clock, the whole company shuts down and everybody shows what they worked on that week. And when I joined the company, there was like 6 people there. I was the only marketing person. And so I got to get up in front of 5 engineers and a designer and tell them about the blog post that I wrote this week, right? And they're going to be like, seriously, what do we pay this guy for? And so it was like, since that moment, I've cared so much about like telling them, here's why we did this, here's what we got from it, here's why this matters. Hey, this influential analyst tweeted about us today, and this means that this is gonna happen. And so I care a lot about like explaining the why behind what we're doing marketing. I think a lot of marketers just we're just arrogant and we're just like, oh, everybody gets marketing. Nobody gets marketing. Nobody gets marketing, right? And so everything we do, we try to explain it. Why we're doing this, why we're doing that. And that creates this culture of like where people get what's going on and they want to contribute to it. And then they see how overall marketing impacts the culture. And they also see how they all can contribute to it. And so what happens is on a day when we launch a new product, you have 300 people at Drift all posting about it and making videos because they all feel like marketing is my job at this company as well.
Right. You mentioned you were employee number 6. Looking back.
Yeah, I actually have no idea if that's true. It's
That
like
is true.
between 6 and 11
No, I think
and a
you're
half.
right.
Yeah, I don't know.
According to your bio, and I believe your book, every
Yeah.
word written in it.
Yeah, I wrote the bio, so.
And I believe it, see, authentic. You're employee number 6. Looking back at that day, did you think you'd be doing something different today? How has that evolution been? What is the biggest change since being employee number 6 to today?
I think everything has changed. I never expected to be in the position that I'm in. I just was like, I was a guy that had a podcast and like, that's it. And they hired me at Drift because they just wanted somebody who was hungry and could hustle and be scrappy. I never in a million years thought that I would be doing what I'm doing now. And that doesn't mean that I think what I'm doing is great. I just mean like, I just didn't know what was possible. And so I got lucky where 2 founders took a chance on me to be like, this guy seems hungry and scrappy, like I'm gonna give him a chance to figure a bunch of things out. And so like the way that I tell the story was like, I was the first content person at Drift, the first PR person at Drift, the first social media person at Drift, the first SEO person at Drift. And what happens in that scenario is you have to figure that all out on your own. And that was like so liberating because you have to figure it out on your own and then you're like, oh, okay, I can do this. And then go and hire people who are better than you in each of those areas. And so I just wanted to join a company where I could like do everything, and I took a bet on the team and the people, which I think go ask anybody who's been at a fast growing company. It's always about the people. It's always about the team. I just bet on the team and said, let's see what happens.
Yeah, it sounds key, the opportunity to figure it out.
Yeah, I wanted to. I had a little side project that I had grown, and I was like, oh, this is cool. I might know more about marketing than I thought, and then I wanted to find somebody who would let me do it at a bigger scale.
Oh, we got to wrap it up soon.
Yeah,
Well,
wrap it up.
thank you for helping us and giving us the opportunity to figure out marketing.
Sure.
And we're going to move on to our panel discussion now. All right, so we added a couple of panelists to the ring, as you can see. We're going to start here on the left. Jeanne Hopkins, she's the CMO at Lola.
Lola.com.
Lola.com, I'm sorry, but one of the-
Lola.com.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Not the feminine products company. We are a software company. What? We get it all the time, yeah.
But one of the best descriptors ever for those folks in PR who are, working tirelessly to figure out descriptors, making corporate travel more productive and less disruptive. I mean, sweet, short and simple, right? Best story, so I met Jeanne before Christmas, and just by way of background, she was talking about one of her early jobs as a teenager.
Right.
Picking tobacco?
Yeah, I'm real proud of that. Migrant worker, yes.
I think it's super interesting why you
Volpe
decided
always
to.
brings that up because it's like one of those goofy fun facts about me. I grew up in the western Massachusetts in Wilbraham. It's exit 7 off the Mass Turnpike. Most people don't know where it is. And at 14 years old, I was babysitting, and they offered a job that you could go to work in the Connecticut Valley, which was like Suffield, Connecticut, and Enfield, Connecticut, if anybody knows where that is. And that's where the tobacco field, shade tobacco, is grown. And that shade tobacco, those leaves go around the Cuban cigars. So people and Volpe is a cigar aficionado, so he's fascinated with the fact that I used to like tie the little strings around the thing for the shade tobacco and actually pick the tobacco in the tobacco barns. And I made $600 that summer.
Nice.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's a lot of lessons in there that you took and that you're using today. There's
Yeah.
got to be.
I'm tall, and I can reach top shelves, and
Nice. The other thing that was in your bio or that we uncovered somewhere was, so at your first job after graduating as an account
Oh,
major,
come on.
you were told you were too loud for
yeah,
the accounting
I was an
department.
accounting major. Stop it.
I think
I was
it's
an
very-
accounting major in college, and my dad was the managing editor of the Springfield Union News, which is in another city in Western Massachusetts, if you don't know where. Oh, that's right. That's right. So Springfield Union News. And when I was going to go to college, I wanted to major in journalism, and my dad said no. You get kind of cynical reading the news all the time. It gets a little depressing. And he said, you're always in too much of a good mood. You always think on the positive side. You need to stay like that. Find something else. So I applied for accounting because I figured you always have to add things up. And so my first job was in Bay State Medical Center in the accounting department. And after 1 year, I was like doing so many things. I just kept super busy. And Pam, who was the controller, she brought me in to do my performance exam, and she said, Jeanne, you're doing a great job, but you really don't have a career in accounting. And I'm looking at her, I was very puzzled, like, well, don't things add up? She said, you're just too loud. Just too loud, and that's when I had to move. But accounting has really worked out for me, because you got marketing budgets.
Absolutely. All right. So I'm going to ask you more about that in a minute. So Meher here on the left is VP of Marketing at Notarize, the online notary platform. You all need one. At some point, you will all need one. Isn't that true?
Yes, now you don't have to go to the bank or anywhere else. You can do it online 24/7.
And don't trust FedEx. That's the lesson I learned a couple weeks ago from Jess. FedEx is not good for documents. Okay.
Yeah, and actually, fun fact, typically somebody's mortgage will be in the back of a FedEx truck because it's still on paper, so we're actually digitizing that whole process. Yeah.
Genius, right? Yeah. All right. Notarize.com. Also an angel investor, startup advisor, also has been a HubSpot alum and with Envision. And apparently there's a fun fact that Jess's cat is on Instagram more than Jess's. So if you follow her, there's apparently lots of cats.
Yeah, my cats are more social than I am.
What's your cat's name?
They're Simon and Sophie, and they're at Fluffy Fur Balls, if you want to follow them. Yeah.
Fantastic. All right, so I'm going to start out with just a sort of fun question. I don't know, it could be fun, depends on what the answer is. Pick one podcast you would want to hear on a desert island. And you can't be seeking wisdom.
I would never want. Listen to yourself.
No, Jeanne, do you have one?
Yeah, I do. I like NPR's Wait, Don't Tell Me, and old ones of Car Talk. Just crack me up. It's
they're
just,
great.
just the NPR thing just really cracks me up on a Saturday. You can hear those over and over again.
Yeah, I love.
No, go.
I love the Stanford University's Entrepreneurial Thought Leadership series. That's one of my favorites.
You would listen to that on a desert island?
I love it. It fires me up. It's great. Yeah.
See?
This is a tough question. I don't know.
What's your favorite?
That'd be a good. That would make me sound very smart.
True crime?
True crime. I've been listening to a lot of Joe Rogan lately because he has like. He has I had no idea. I was like, this guy has a good podcast, but he just has everybody from all walks of life, doctors, doctors, lawyers, authors, whatever, and he takes it seriously and tries to see, today, I was listening to one this morning where he had Jack Dorsey on to talk about Twitter, and Twitter's under a lot of heat right now because they're not doing a great job being transparent about which accounts they block and not. And so he brought on basically two opposing people to just try to rip into Jack, and he did a good job being super fair and honest. And so I was really surprised when I listened to that. I feel smarter. So
But his are very long.
They're very long, which is why I went with the desert.
Days are long in the
If we did our podcast, like after like 4 days, I'd be like, and now what? So
Some of his are 4 hours.
yeah, 4 hours, which is
Does that
too.
qualify as a podcast or a program?
He does 50 million downloads a month. So
All right, he's doing something right.
yeah.
All right, question for the group. I have had the opportunity to meet all of your CEOs, some more time with them, some less time, or investors. I haven't met investors, but what do they get wrong about marketing? I mean, they're brilliant gentlemen, each in their own right, but what do they get wrong about marketing, do you think? Do they get anything wrong?
Well, Mike Volpe is the best marketer in Boston, I've heard, and all of New England, and maybe even the galaxy. So I think all of us are coming up second best, right? So I don't know. I mean, it's a hard thing. He's had. Since bringing me on board, I have to like give him the hairy eyeball every now and again because he goes off on a tear with all these great ideas, and it's like, do you want to come back to marketing? And he does a really good job, but it's been, his elevation from CMO to CEO, and he's very, very business focused, and I can see him literally like almost flinching when he wants to tell me something, and so he tries super, super hard not to. But sometimes it just comes out, right? And
Does that make it easier or harder for you that he's been a CMO, so he's a believer?
I joined the company because I worked for him for 3 years at HubSpot. I think we have a good yin-yang relationship. I'm a good back office kind of a person. He's an introvert, I'm an extrovert, so it kind of works for us.
Right.
And I don't bug him, and he doesn't bug me, and that's wonderful.
That's beautiful.
It's a beautiful relationship.
You want to skip?
Wait, this is being recorded, right? So Pat is great. He's a product guy, but he gives me a lot of autonomy to do what I know how to do and I love, which is great. I think, as somebody who talks to a lot of startups, I think it's easy to forget how hard marketing really is, and especially when you're crafting your brand and your value prop and how do you create a category around yourself. It takes a lot of experimentation and a lot of putting things out to market and trying things. It's very easy to get distracted by some of the bells and whistles and seeing what other companies are doing and forget that you kind of need to stay to your own truth. But I'm very fortunate that he understands and values marketing, so I wouldn't say anything else other than that on camera.
Do you want me to go to the next
Can you
question?
restate the question?
Okay.
No, I'm just. So I work for David, and he edit this part out. He's really good at marketing, and I think a lot of people see like the stuff that we do at Drift, and the number one question I get is like, how do you get your boss to like say yes to that? And I say the only answer is he gets. Like I'm lucky to work for founders who get marketing, and that makes a lot of what I do easy, right? Meaning like I don't have to justify silly things in marketing about why we're going to do X or why we're going to do Y. They get it. The other thing is like he pushes me on a lot of things because he gets it, and it's almost like a lot of times I explain it like it's kind of like the frustrating like lecture from a teacher or a parent where you're like, God damn it, he's right, and that's a good idea. And I'm gonna have to go blow up my plan and go do it. And so I think it's good, but I think we have a good relationship. I mean, I've been there for 3.5 years now, and so it's a lot of trust. Marketing has to be about trust. If you have a relationship with a CEO where like everything you do has to be justified, that's gonna be tough.
Yeah. Question for all of you. What do you think, what's the biggest challenge facing marketers today? You go in, it's art and science, and it's constant proving and constant testing and learning. It's always changing, can't pin it down. Is that the biggest challenge, or what do you think is the biggest challenge in marketing today?
I think the biggest challenge today is there is not one clear playbook. Like there is too many, there are 15 different ways to win as a marketer. And so I think the biggest thing that I'm trying to push for is like to bring creativity back to marketing a little bit. I think the last decade has been amazing because marketing automation has made things like very easy to measure and track, and trust me, that stuff is very important. But I think what we've lost is like the majority of marketers today just do this cookie cutter approach because Jeanne or myself or Jess said something on a panel, they go back to their business, they plug it in, and they're like, marketing sucks, it doesn't work. Where like I think we need to bring creativity back a little bit and think about like marketing is about is about the art of it a little bit, and I think that the challenge is most people have forgotten that a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and not to skip ahead to some of your questions, but when you talk about what are the trends that we look excited for, I actually like the trend of the anti-trend, which is a little bit meta, but it's a little bit of like not getting distracted about what somebody says is the hot new trend to do, but I think seeing the trend that a lot more marketers are starting to say, I'm unique and that's okay, and I want to build something that's original and special. And I'm starting to see companies, like Lola and Drift who are doing that more, and I think that's something that, I'm particularly excited about.
I'm curious to see how Jeanne answers this.
Well, I'm going to disagree. Okay. Just because the panelists
you can.
can be a bored, right? We don't want to be bored. So I think that most marketers forget that there's four different levels, let's talk about it, that many marketers in their company completely forget about the employees. They forget that your employees are your most important asset. They don't communicate effectively with their employees. They don't keep their employees in the know. A couple of people know this, a couple of people, then you hear I didn't know we were doing this, and what, right? So you want to keep your employees firmly engaged, and that's part of your culture. The next one is talking about customers. This is the next outer layer, talking about your customers. I do not know very many marketers that concentrate on customer marketing. They kind of think about it like, oh shit, we're churning, and we need to bring in customer success, and we need to do this. Well, customer success can't do anything without customer marketing. And then the next one is really prospects. A lot of marketers are constantly trying to bring in prospects. You're bringing in, how many people have a loyalty card and they go to an ice cream shop in town and they get their card punched or whatever, and then you get an email from this ice cream place, it's 25% off for your ice cream, but only for first-time people. Well, what about you're loyal? You're a loyal person. So it's not about the prospects. You really should be concentrating on your customers and on your employees. And the last is the community. So at HubSpot, we had at any given time, 50,000 net new leads per month, reconverts, everything. But if you look at 50,000 leads, it would only transfer to about 250 to 300 customers per month. And that's why there were so many people that would share that content. That was the community. So it's employees, customers, prospects, and the community. And if you look at what Dave is talking about, it's his community that is really given. It's the people that are following you and sharing and sending pictures. They may not be a customer today, but they might be a customer in a year or two. And building that community is all about having your employees share, 300 employees for you. So I had a company meeting today and talking about, okay guys, we really need you to dig deep. I need you to, I did this whole video on how do you go through your LinkedIn profile to figure out who you might contact in order to have a demo of the product, and you get these big deer in the headlights stares at you. But in reality, that's what it's all about. It's about your employees firmly engaging to support your customers, so people want to be prospects, and then you have the fangirls and fanboys that want to be able to share your content. And that's what I think is more important.
I'd love to hear more your other thoughts. Go ahead.
What Jeanne just alluded to, though, is the most important thing. If you're a marketer and you can't sell, if you're trying to convince your company to sell, but you haven't done that on your own, there's a mismatch. And so I think the biggest piece of that is also empathy. Most marketers don't have empathy for the rest of the company. It's easy to stand up in front of the room as a marketer and say, all right, sales, why are you not following up with these leads, or why are you not doing this thing? And it's well, you actually have no idea what I actually do and how I do this.
Mm-hmm.
Or do the hard work to ask questions and actually learning about their experience.
Jeanne, you mentioned something, in PR we often hear clients talk about community. And we need to build community. We need to go looking for the community, as if it's suddenly going to appear out of nowhere, and so you're going to put out a tweet or a piece of content, and the community is going to come flocking. Talk to a little bit about nurturing community and pulling people close to you so that you can start to build that community. You think it starts internally first with your employees?
Absolutely, and I think that at HubSpot, as an example, there was just a vast community of maybe 700,000 people that would take every piece of content and amplify it across their networks. So the VARs or the agencies or content people that just thought this was a great idea to be able to share it and be able to look smart. I remember when Pinterest first came out, so this was around 2012-ish or so, and I was insistent that we needed to do an ebook on that. Well, the salespeople hated it because it was 95% women, and they're like, what the heck is Pinterest? What's Pinterest? And we were getting so many downloads of the Pinterest ebook because everybody wanted to know, how do I make Pinterest work for me? And it's building community. I'm going to use an example from Ipswitch. Ipswitch is a 27-year-old software company, on-premises software company for network management, and then secure file transfer. All right, so it's the customers, the biggest customer is the Navy. So they had, for their What's Up Gold product, they had a community that got 1 million visits per year. 1 million visits. It was called What's Up Gold Space. Totally original. But they had a very good community manager, and that community was, all these customers were sharing all these scripts and everything with each other. And then 3 years ago, the IT team became responsible, I say responsible, drive responsibly, is they decided that they were just going to kill the community. Kill it.
Oh.
Just get rid of the domain. And I do this thing on customer success, and I have this like little picture of the Post-it note that says "We've moved." Up there for "We've moved" for 3 years without any redirect, anything. And so you have 1 million visits, you have tens of thousands of customers. What do you think happened to those customers? Do you think those customers thought that What's Up Gold was no longer available? Do you think that they knew who Ipswitch was because they decided, oh, we're not going to call it What's Up Gold anymore, we're going to call it Ipswitch? The company effectively killed their community. Because you have people that are users that like you, fangirls and fanboys, no matter what. And it doesn't matter if you have 100 people or 1,000 people or 1 million people. They are your referrals, they're your customers, they're your prospects. Those are people you don't want to get rid of. So I'm sure you have a lot of community.
That just caused me a lot of anxiety, that story that happened to me.
In what way?
Just that loss of opportunity.
Yeah. I mean, for us, it's just about making it easy. And so we care a lot about, like, from day one, I can't tell you, like, how much we care about responding to every single person on social media and how many companies don't do that. Or when they do it, they feel the need to be like, hello, thank you. Just, I don't know, like, just respond with, like, an emoji thumbs up or something. Like, you don't have to, say something crazy. But I think that the sense of community comes from, like, from responding to everyone, but also showing that you're real, and then doing things to involve the community. So we do a lot of things where we give access to people first, like, because they're in the community. Hey, you want to be the first to register for our event? Go here. It's cheaper for you. You want to be the first to get the book. You want to be the first to get something that HubSpot did a great job of is getting customers and partners into product launches early and say, hey, you can do this now. And so I think the other thing is community. People want to see, like, especially in marketing for me, they want to know what other marketers are doing. And so community is like, how do you take this peer group and expose that? And it almost have nothing to do with what they're selling. Like in Jeanne's example, probably wasn't even always product specific, but it's like, I'm a marketer, these are other marketers, you guys should talk. And then they realize that the connection that they have is the company.
Yeah. Thoughts on community?
That's all great. Awesome. No, I think maybe the only thing to add is we think about community also as giving a platform for our community, for our customer, to show our customers as their best selves and to help make them famous within the community. So we focus a lot on co-creating content with our customers and our partners, throwing events, putting them on stage, trying to get them speaking slots at some of the bigger events in the industry. So we think about how do we not only bring the industry and the community together, but to elevate that community.
Switching gears a little bit, to keep the microphone. You work with startups a lot as an angel investor, things like that. What's in the DNA of a good marketer? What is, when you go to the startups and you're looking at the team and you say, all right, they've got it. What does every marketer need to have? What are the skills?
You're looking at it.
Right, so reveal
No.
Okay.
So my advice on that is be really obsessed with learning, not about title. I think a lot of marketers, especially earlier in their career, get so distracted and obsessed about the next promotion or the next title, instead of how do I just learn as much as possible and how do I make a big impact in what I'm doing. So we talk a lot about T-shape marketers, which is having across discipline, across different topics, and also getting really in-depth experience in each topic. So that you're not only a generalist and that you not only have experience in one thing. So I focus a lot of my earlier career being a T-shaped marketer, and that's what I tell a lot of marketers if they want to grow in their career to focus on that.
Yeah. What do you think?
I think the thing that separates most people today is the doing from the actual, it's so I think because of LinkedIn now, most 99% of marketers' resumes look good, right? I was at this company, I was at that company, but that doesn't actually mean they actually did the work. And so the thing that I would look for in an early stage marketing hire is somebody who has actually done the work And I think a lot about, like, in this example, I use my story. My resume would not have stood out to anybody. But I had this little side project where I figured out I started a podcast, I had a newsletter, I had a website, I sold sponsorships. And so because I had that, I had to figure out all those things on my own. And that's what they saw in me was like, oh, if he knows how to do that, he hasn't done it on a company level, but he might be able to do it here. And so when you're interviewing somebody, you can I think marketing is too hard today. If you're not actually passionate about marketing, it's too hard to be any good at it. And so that means maybe, and it doesn't have to be specific to your day job, but it might mean you love writing and you write books on the weekends, or you love social media and you have, like, there's somebody on the marketing team at Drift, he has an office fan page that has like 1 million fans of it. Great, I'd hire that guy over and over again because he obviously knows something about getting attention. So I think it's like looking beyond, especially in the early days. You're going to make the mistake of trying to hire too senior of a person who's not going to be a right match for your stage of the company, but then you're also going to be frustrated because you're like, I can't find a person that's junior enough to do the job. So I would look for somebody who's done something on the side, has a blog, does videos, has a podcast, has a newsletter, or whatever.
Yeah.
So you're talking the nights and weekends projects kind of a thing, you know, what really interests you. So in the past 5 months, I've reviewed 400 resumes for Marketing All-Star at Lola.com. And there's only been a very small percentage that I've even put through the video screen, and even fewer to come into the office, and even fewer that have actually made the cut. I was lucky enough through referrals and different things, somebody that had worked for me before, different things, to be able to stand up a team of 7 people in about 45 days. But it was all from the network, right? So now I'm looking to be able to add to it. The number one thing that I find that one of the reasons I disconnect from people is they haven't even, well, it drives me crazy when they can't spell HubSpot. It's a capital S, okay? But the second thing is they haven't bothered to take free classes from HubSpot to become inbound marketing certified or anything having to do with HubSpot. And so we're a 100% HubSpot shop except for our Drift implementation. But I think that the one thing that I like to look for, and because I've run sales and marketing teams, and I'm all about the alignment between sales and marketing, is to get some sales experience. As a marketer, until you've carried a bag, until you've had a quota on your head, if you don't have sales experience, you just don't get it. You don't have that degree of empathy, because I have done sales, but I much prefer doing marketing, and I would rather have sales report to me. But they have to repeat, lather, rinse, repeat, lather, rinse, repeat. In order for them to be successful and scale, they have to have a playbook, they have to have a way that they're doing the demo, they have to have the right closing conversations. They need all this stuff in order to do it over and over again, and that's what's made HubSpot successful. So trying to build that, and I feel that the marketer, the random marketer that I ever come across that has sales experience becomes a good product marketer, becomes a good sales enablement person, becomes a good content person to deliver the right kind of materials to help the salespeople sell, because ultimately it's about customers, right?
One more thing on that.
Yeah.
I'm not to put you on the spot, but somebody on your team now, Connor, so intern on Jeanne's team now, he was an intern at Drift in sales, and then was an intern in Drift in customer success, and then like he was like, hey Dave, I think I want to learn marketing, can I be on your team for 3 months? I was like, hell yeah. And I don't know, my guess is Jeanne probably loves him because he can do everything, and he's an incredible marketer now, and I think the best marketers are also, you know, super well-rounded to that point. So
You got the sort of DNA of the person you described. What went into my thought was, or my head was, does that person even exist? Yep. You know, and how hard have they been for you to find? And is your ability to scale reliant on finding those?
So I've probably seen 100 resumes from people that are running social media for their company, and they post things to LinkedIn, and I think to myself, that's not a job. That's like something you do for I always tell people in social media, it's important. So we're all here, I'm taking pictures, I'm doing the social media thing, but that's not my full-time job. And if you're a social media person, I want to see video, I want to see written blogs, I want to see the nights and weekends projects, I want to see what have you done over and above, what are you really interested in. I don't care that you post to LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. It has like no interest for me at all. There's a million of you out there. And then they don't have any HubSpot experience. They don't have any experience with a tool that allows them to go faster and do more. And I can see that's why people want a new job. I just wish that in their current environment, they had that chance.
Yeah. And I think one theme in that too is marketers who are driven toward making an impact and having results, and that's where the sales marketing comes into play, where the marketer is just super passionate about wanting to help the salesperson like hit their quota, and that's a really great skill to have. And I remember Volpe always says that if I see a resume and the only numbers that are on it is your phone number, like that's a bad thing. Like you actually want to show metrics and results and what you're actually like, how you're working on stuff is actually like improving something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this one other question. I think, are we winding up? You mentioned the trends earlier. What's the trend you really wish would go away? Is there something you can think of that's, I go back to that creating a moment. I hear that a lot. Let's create a moment, and I sort of wish that would disappear. Is there a trend that you see that
I'll
you
say
like?
one that's really quick, and that is people stop calling ABM. I just call it like good marketing to accounts you selling. Yeah.
I hate the trend. So I use LinkedIn more than anybody. I love LinkedIn. I hate the trend of like when people just mass tag 30 people in a thing and they're like, so I want to get your attention. I'm going to talk about blah, 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 blah. At Jeanne Hopkins, at Jess Meher, blah, blah, blah. Thoughts? Like, don't tag me in that, please. Like, I don't, there's just no value. There's no value in doing that. I hate that. That's like the new version of spam.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. I guess what bothers me is how inward focused so much communication is. It's like, I care about me, my name is, this is blah, 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 instead of, what can I do to help you? What can I do? I wish people would just kind of turn around that so that we would have a little bit more servant leadership. I would like it. I rarely get people to say to me, what can I do to help you? What can I do? I get people that say, I want 15 minutes of your time. Well, if I gave 15 minutes of my time to everybody that wants 15 minutes of my time, I would get absolutely, well, first of all, I couldn't do that. So I always love the cup of coffee thing. I don't drink coffee. So, people ask me for a cup of coffee and it's an automatic no for me. And it's not intentional, but it's sort of like, really? You want my time? And what are you going to do? Are you going to make a donation in my name to somebody? Do something, right?
I don't drink coffee.
Right. And I don't drink coffee, right? And then it's, well, what do you drink? Right, I know. But I just wish that there were a way. I don't mind connecting with people. I really don't. I just don't connect with me and then try to sell me in the next sentence. I even say that in my profile. I'll connect with you. I'm always interested in doing that. But don't say, can I have 15 minutes of your time to be able to do a demo? And I used to, as soon as somebody did that, I would go in and I would unconnect with them. Disconnect, unconnect, disconnect, right? Remove them from my network. But I don't have the time to do that anymore, so I just ignore. And I think that's what bothers me the most, is like, talk about something else that is going to interest, I'm interested in children's theater. I'm interested in other things, and I'm not interested in listening to your ABM proposal because...
The other thing too is how often people reach out and use cats against me because they know I have my cat thing, and so they're like, I love cats too, and I'm like, that's not a reason to connect. No.
So you're looking for purposeful, human, authentic connection.
And it's so easy today because so much information, especially if you're doing marketing, is available online. You just have to use it smarter than being like, hello, Jess, I also have a cat.
Yeah.
Like,
do the work. You want them to do the work. Last question from me. Brand envy. I'm a B2C girl, but you do whatever you think.
So I have one that you wouldn't expect. It's Glossier.
Yes?
Yeah. Is that true? They had to put makeup on my forehead today for a video that we did, which is no, but they do an amazing job of being real and authentic. And so like if you go to their homepage, the homepage is instead of having pictures of models wearing their products, it's literally like, Jessica M from Boston, and it's her Instagram. And so they have this like community of like people are then posting pictures of their products, and then it's an amazing feeling because, well, it's never happened to me, but it's an amazing feeling because then what happens if you post a picture on your Instagram, and then next thing you know, you go to their website and you're like, whoa, I'm on their homepage. And then they have this mission statement that is like, we want to show you real people because we're real people just like you. We don't expect this to be blah, blah, blah. And it's so authentic and real, and I think that is a lesson that can be applied to anything. But honestly, for me in B2B, I hate looking at other B2B companies for examples because I think it does kind of cloud. There's definitely a set of best practices. Like I need to learn what Jeanne's doing at Lola. I need to learn what's happening at HubSpot, all that stuff. But like, there is definitely like a little bit of bias towards like if you do whatever they're doing. I'm super interested in B2C and in other types of companies.
Yeah.
Well, as a plus-size person, I like Ashley Graham. I think she's just done a marvelous job of connecting with clothing lines and not being afraid to just be out there. And, you know, her Revlon makeup line sold out in 3 hours. And I would much rather have her be something than a Kardashian or a Jenner.
Totally.
So,
Fearless.
so I guess my favorite brand might be the egg on Instagram. So.
Oh my God, right?
Oh, yeah.
Genius.
Well, so this is a B2B one. I really love what Expensify has been doing. Like, I love their new video commercial. I think it's pretty baller. And the reason that one in particular is because they're adding a lot of sexiness to something that's not very sexy, which is very applicable to what kind of we do at Notarize.
No.
Well, despite the budget, you know, the idea is fun. So if I had the budget, but I don't know, I kind of like what they're doing, and their software's great too. Yeah.
Fantastic. All right, we're going to open it up for questions.
Dave, I've noticed that when you go to conferences for Drift, some of the times you'll ask people, hey, are you flying in? Is there any way we could pick you up and bring you to the event? Happy to do it. I'm curious, do people actually take you up on that? And if so, has anything interesting arisen out of that?
Yes, it's a disaster. Don't do it. So yeah, I had the idea. So our conference Hypergrowth is in Boston, and I had the idea of like, let's just do something different. I want to connect with our customers and meet them. And so I posted on LinkedIn, hey, I'll give you a ride to the airport. And I got like probably 20 people that messaged me, and I picked up somebody. But the day that I did it, it took me an hour and a half in the tunnel, and so I only did one ride. But we doubled down on that, and so there's a big event in our industry called SaaStr in San Jose, and this year the event, it's usually in San Francisco, but this year it was in San Jose, which is an hour away from San Francisco, and everybody flies into SFO. So we said, wait a second, what if instead of getting a trade show booth, we rented a van, we wrapped the van in Drift stuff, and we said, we're riding to SaaStr, and we did a whole campaign of, we'll give you a ride to the airport. And so we ended up giving people rides from the airport, and that was just an amazing way of like, you don't reach as many people. There's 5-6 people, but the impact on those 6 people, everybody's going to tell that story. Everybody's going to talk about that. And so I think that just speaks to like, we just always want to do things that nobody else is doing that is going to serve the community. And also the secondary benefit of that is get them talking about us.
It just struck me as such a small but noble gesture that gives a halo effect to the brand in a really cool way.
Yeah, the guy who did it, he brought me donuts too. He's a nice man.
Bonus.
Yeah.
Anybody?
Hey, Mike. Dave shared his favorite marketing quote earlier. I'm curious if Jeanne and Jess, you have favorite marketing quotes.
My favorite marketing quotes?
Mm-hmm.
I guess it's the Yoda one, do or do not. What is it?
There is no try. Yeah, it's good.
Okay, and then other than conversational marketing, what books would you recommend we read? What's on your list?
It depends on what so I think for me the best like marketing books have been being intentional. Like if I want to learn about copywriting, go read a copywriting book. Like if I want to learn about video, and so, but one book that I would definitely go read if you just want to learn more about like how companies take over markets is a book called Behind the Cloud. It's a story about Salesforce and just tells their story from like '99 through building a massive company. And they wrote the book in like plays. So it's like play number 6, play number 48, play number 57. It's a great book. Yeah.
One of my favorite books is Play Bigger, which is all about category creation, very applicable to like what we're doing. And I love that book. I think it's great.
So I read a lot of Jane Austen over and over again, and Harry Potter. So what I subscribe to is Blinkist. I really like that subscription service, and you get a nice synopsis. It's 12, 15 minutes that you can also download as a podcast and be able to listen to it. But I love to be able to read it because I can read it on my phone and just kind of say, okay, I've got the basics on this. Do I want to go deeper? So I like the synopsis that I can read quickly and then go into something else. So there's so many good books out there. There's the 100 best business books. I mean, you can go back in time. There's just so many. I mean, you can't really pick one because, as David pointed out, there's so many choices for what you're trying to learn.
In terms of listening to you, majorly expertise in the digital space, okay? But that's not all of marketing. And what is this idea of integrated marketing where you're mixing traditional, digital, social, PR. I didn't hear much of the integrated marketing aspect of your jobs. Is that relevant, or are you guys saying that stuff is dead and it's all about digital?
Super relevant. We've had a lot of success lately because I think everybody has, most companies in our space are all, you know, digital. Like, we've bought, there's a lot of little kind of hacks you can do where, like, you buy one billboard in one location in one area for 2 weeks and it's very cheap and it gets everybody talking. There's a lot of PR stuff. So I think, to me, I think it just is a trend in marketing right now is to only think about digital. We've found a lot of opportunities by going back. I saw today that BuzzFeed is launching a newspaper, a print publication. I think it's a great idea. I'm like, when are we going to do our newspaper at Drift, right? Not about us, but about the industry and marketing. So I think it's more important than ever, only because 99% of the noise, like, as a marketer, I just want to find channels where nobody is, right? Where, like, my competitors aren't. So if I do an analysis of all the companies in our industry and they all have podcasts, they all do, you know, they all do AdWords, they're all on Facebook, they're all doing retargeting, they're all doing email, but none of them are doing events, well then, hell yeah, we're going to do an in-person event. So I think it's just finding a balance of where you can get people's attention.
So I've been at Notarize for a little over a year, and I've pretty much spent most of the first year on non-traditional marketing, so doing a lot of events. We just launched our first book yesterday, actually, and the reason for that is we find that a lot of our industry are attending events, and all the events kind of suck, so we know that we can do a better job throwing an awesome event. So we're doing a book launch party, we did a roadshow last summer, we're actually doing a lot to connect with people physically, in addition to digitally.
So to get to your point, public relations is the original inbound marketing. It was all about content. That's really what it is. And it's about content. It's about making sure that you're visible. And it used to be in the days of yore that a press release would go over a wire. But now your press release can go on your website. You're getting increased connections. You have the ability to work with other people. And I'm a big believer that public relations is the core of everything that we do. Every speaking event, there's a press release that was posted today about this particular speaking event. Links back to March, links to Dave, links to Jess. And it's all, and then you get the chance to be able to social share it. And that is, it's content. And ultimately, what we're all trying to do as marketers is come up with content, whether it's a live event, whether it's a book, whether it's a billboard, whatever it is. And you have to look at this holistic world and be able to take advantage of opportunities. And unfortunately, many marketers, like Expensify, they blew it all on well, I mean, you know, well, yeah, exactly. So Expensify did this thing with 2 Chainz, and they had this, you know, digital thing that they did on the Super Bowl, but it was their entire marketing budget. And I'm not a gambler, and I would not go for that roll of the die in any way, shape, or form. But, you know, good for them. They did it, and you're exactly right. You want to be able to see is what's going to happen as a result. But they have no more money. You know, it's a relatively small company, so what else are you going to do? How long are you going to ride how long are you going to ride that train? So to your point, it's not all digital. It's simply really, really good content and how you decide to share that content, how you decide to post that content by involving, again, let's all together, your employees, your customers, your prospects, and your community.
Now that we are using so many channels in digital and in traditional space, how should we as marketers know how to prioritize and make sure that there is quality with quantity as well, and we are not just having the same post on all channels and in our press releases at the same time?
We actually just had a conversation about this today earlier in this week, because we noticed that what we were doing on social media is posting the same thing across every channel. And then I don't have a math answer for you on this one, but like that just looks the same. And so like when everything looks the same across all your channels, like you're not going to get engagement on all your posts because everybody just tunes it out as noise. And so we've started to focus a lot more about like, okay, for LinkedIn, we're going to post this from David's account. I'm going to share this from our company account. We're going to post this on Twitter. We're going to do this on Instagram. We're going to do that. So I think that part is more important. Quantity is fine. You can go nuts and post as much as you want, to me, if it's unique content. I think, but 99% of brands are posting the same. It's hooked up to Buffer or something else, and it just is. And that worked 10 years ago, 5 years ago, but now it's table stakes. Every company has social media. Every company's on all those channels, and they're all just pumping out links. Like, we killed all of our automation on social at Drift, and the person who does social media literally hand writes every single post, because to me, that's the only way that you're gonna stand out and create real, authentic content today than just, everyone has a buffer queue with 100 links. I have no idea what the engagement is on any of that stuff, so.
Right. So I don't know why you think there's more channels now than there were 20 years ago. As an elder of this crew, there used to be a lot of newspapers, magazines, television stations, radio stations, billboards, bus, out of home, all that. They're all different channels. I worked for Lego Systems. I worked for Milton Bradley. I worked for Hasbro. That's my B2C experience, which is a lot of fun. But you have to realize that even though it seems like there's a lot more channels now, it's changed. It's just different now, where if Lego was coming out with a new Duplo set, that's the big blocks for small children, and if they were coming out, you would end up working in July in order to get the best toys coverage in the November and December women's magazine. So you'd be working with Family Circle and Good Housekeeping and all these, I know everybody's laughing. Some people, yeah, they still sell some of those magazines. But it was something that you had to do. And 2 weeks ago, they just had Toy Fair in New York City and at the Javits Center. And so you need to have a presence there, a physical presence to say, has anybody been to a toy store recently? Probably not, right? Where's Toys R Us? You might have gone to a small toy store or something, but the whole idea of having this massive choice, the only time you see choice is during the holidays when you can go to Target or you can go to Walmart and they've got, maybe 500 SKUs or something. But do you know how many toy companies there are out there? Do you know how many SKUs there are? How do you stand out? So my point being is that you need to be able to think about things just a little bit differently.
Yeah, I think the only thing to add to that is just go where your customers are and start in one place or two places and don't worry about all the other stuff. We actually, from the social media side, invest way heavily in Facebook because that's where our audience is. And we don't do a lot in Twitter. We don't care about having 1 million Twitter followers because that's really not where our audience is right now, which is the complete opposite of the last company that I worked for. So I throw conventional wisdom out the window and I just focus on where our customers are. And I started to get really, really good at that one channel. And then how do I grow that?
Boston. How do you feel about technology in Boston in the coming years? You're feeling good about it? Is it really booming? Is it not? Do you feel like it's competing with the West Coast at this point? What do you think? How do you feel about it?
I gotta go to the West. I go to the West Coast a lot, and every time I go there, I'm like, I don't understand why people. What the big. I think everybody I've met in Boston is just as smart, just as talented. The companies are as good. I think it's just this perception that we have to shake ourselves, and I think there's not a lot of chest thumping, and granted, that's kind of what I do, and so whatever. But the reason we're able to stand out is because not a lot of people do that here on the East Coast. And so I think it's more of a marketing. I think Boston has more of a marketing problem than an actual talent problem. That's what I think the challenge is.
I do think there has been an insurgence of great companies in the Boston area the last several years. I think maybe 5, 6, 10 years ago, there were a couple core pillar companies that everyone talked about. But now I feel like there's so many more and there's so many great companies. There's so many different kinds of companies now. There's more consumer companies coming out in Boston. I think it's an amazing place to be.